welcome to We'll Throw, the after party. And tonight we are sipping coffee like we're on a late night show because we're doing Speak Now and Red on our Becoming a Swiftie series. Woohoo! So excited. I'm so excited for this one. This is going to be a messy show, I think, because the opinions could not be more all over the board for this one. And we have a lot to talk about from these albums and these eras and the time that we have spent together in these eras as well, because this is when, Taylor's version started for Red, and we had just kind of come together as a crew in a lot of ways. And there's a lot tied into all this. So for the next 2 hours, we're going to break all of it down, and we'll be hanging out with all of you as well on this very rainy and cold and twilight feeling Friday night in Halifax, which is perfect weather to talk about Speak Now and Red. Welcome, everybody. Marissa, let's say welcome to you and your incredible, very, very warm, appropriately themed
God,
sweater.
yes. I have my All Too Well short film sweatshirt that is truly the thickest piece of clothing I own. It's like wearing a winter coat. I don't know how long I will survive, but it was only appropriate for today.
It was only appropriate. And listen, we'll take it. I chose my Reputation sweater this evening simply because of the purple dress. I don't have a lot of Speak Now artifacts in this household, and I have more red that I could show off. I guess red is here as well. So we're on the same page. I also have my fan on full blast. So we'll see who changes first tonight. Will it be Sly? Probably not. You've never done an outfit change mid-show.
But I am also wrong era, but I'm rocking the Coney Island
Beautiful
sweatshirt. So
beautiful. We love it. We love it. And Alexis, how are you doing this evening? I know Red is like your Taylor Swift album. At least in my head, Red is your Taylor Swift album.
Listen,
before Alexis answers, can I tell you all what Alexis sent me this morning? Because it cracked me up.
Please.
It's that just like Alexis had assigned me being a Hawkeye Stan, Liz, you had assigned Red to Alexis.
I think I made a comment about it one time, and Liz appointed me with it, and I will that's what we're gonna go with for the rest of
We're just owning it now.
Yeah, we're just owning it. I am wearing the first clothes that my hands touched after I fell in the shower and had to rush my way up here. So no branded merch in this household tonight.
You know what? I think you did great. I think you all did great. This is going to be a great evening. And also not wearing merch is also the vibe of this era with some of the opinions that we're going to be throwing around, I think. So we're all on brand in different ways. Maybe not for our own opinions, but certainly for each other's, right? But before we jump into all of that, I feel like there was a lot that went on this week. So let's chat about what we've been enjoying over the past few days since we last saw each other. I'm looking at what we've written down, and I am so curious to see what Alexis and Sly are willing to share on air about what they've written down. So I'm going to start with Marissa. Marissa, what have you been enjoying this week?
With the exclusion of Struck Work, I have been enjoying Snow Angel, Renee Rapp's new album that just came out today. I've only listened through it once. I've only listened through it. That's a sentence.
No.
I've only listened through it once, but really enjoyed it. I think there's some slow burn bangers on there. And I have greatly enjoyed and also been deeply hurt by DJ Crazy Times and Melania Electronica performing Planet of the Bass at the Jonas Brothers in Boston 2-3 days ago for Joe Jonas's birthday. If you don't know what Planet of the Bass is, it is a parody, Euro pop song, satirical comedy song, from some comedians on TikTok, Kyle Jordan and Audrey's name I don't remember. But if you know the song, you greatly appreciate why this is so important. And if you don't know the song, you also appreciate why it's so important, because half the audience at the Jonas Brothers concert was very confused. And as someone who is going to the Jonas Brothers tour next week, I and everyone in my group that is going was deeply offended that it was not our date because we would have been bringing the energy for Planet of the Bass. So I enjoyed and also was deeply frustrated by Planet of the Bass at the Jonas Brothers this week. You're muted.
So muted.
Would you like to give a PSA to the Jonas Brothers right now about why they should return with Planet of the Bass for your date?
Yeah, I think they should fly Kyle and I don't want to say the wrong name. I think that is her name. I'm really not sure. I think they should fly them out to Chicago next week. And I think we deserve a do-over because I know Chicago audiences appreciate comedy and we will appreciate Planet of the Bass in a way that Boston did not show up for.
You heard it here first. The campaign starts now. I'm into it. Let's go to Sly next. Sly, what have you been enjoying this week? Don't be shy.
Okay. I'm gonna start with the good stuff. A good friend, Carlos, recently was on the Point in Progress podcast, and in his episode, we forced him to host the whole show. It was great. It was a blast. Highly recommend checking out that episode of Pip. But on it, we had like a really big conversation about music and stuff. And I'm pretty sure, was the one who recommended the group Sleep Theory. I'm dyslexic. And I've been listening to that, and it was great. And also on that episode, I can't remember if it was Carlos or somebody else, recommended Magnolia Park, which is a group who dropped 2 EPs today, called Soul Eater and Mood Eater. And initial reactions, I really enjoyed it. So that was fun. So that's the music section, what I've been enjoying. The reading, a shit ton of Dreary, and like we're just like putting aside all of the problems with that, because it was the only thing I could read this week. So we're dealing with that, and we're not judging. Okay,
we are not judging. This is not a space to be judged. For
no legs to stand on over here. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing, I have not been watching any of the really good TV shows from struck companies that we can't discuss, but I have instead been watching a really terrible, like awful TV show, also from a struck company that I can't discuss. But just know it is bad, and I'm having a great time.
I love that. I love hearing that it's bad and you're having a great time, because sometimes that's like the level that we're on, right? You need something that is so bad it's good, and not bad it's painful bad.
I wouldn't even argue it's so bad it's good. It's just like the level of no thoughts, just vibes that I needed.
Yep. Oh boy, I wish we could talk
you
about
know what I'm talking about.
The whole conversation being like, why don't I know what you're watching? How has this not come up? Yeah.
Alexis, what have you been enjoying this week?
Okay, so here's the thing. I have mentioned this before. I listen to men talk about hockey. It's a thing.
I don't know why.
This is a double-edged sword, okay? Most of the time I listen to men talk about hockey, it's because they're like the monopoly in that area. Like, so like if I want to know what is happening at the Oodle Noodle, like only men are telling me for some stupid ass reason, so I have to listen to men. The Empty Netters are like the only men that I enjoy listening to. And the fun thing about their podcast for Alexis is that I go in with no understanding of who they're interviewing. And I come out with a ton of fast facts and still no understanding of who they're interviewing. So like, I can never tell you like who the player is or what team they're currently playing for. But I can come out of an interview and be like, they're really jealous of this other guy who has like 2 saunas in Sweden and they want to move to Sweden, and like a local artist designed their goalie mask and it's a big deal. I have no clue who this man is. I don't know his name. I don't know his number. I don't know who he plays for. I know he has an issue with the Panthers, so I'm assuming on a team that got beaten by the Panthers. But that is what I've been enjoying this week.
Wow.
I need
is
to
that
fact check 1
podcast?
second.
Hmm?
Because I was going to share information related to the Panthers, but I wanted to double check before I said anything. So come back to me in like 5 seconds.
Okay,
Yeah,
Marissa, do you have information on the Panthers that you were hoping to share in this segment? I know you usually do. Now would be the right time to say it.
Listen, there was a moment earlier today where I sat in fear for a moment that I was going to have to explain to Liz who Connor McDavid was. So,
oh yeah, that was
it's
very
been
bad.
a complicated day in the world of hockey.
Listen, my brain feels like it's slowly coming back online. There were multiple points today where people were telling me things that were like common knowledge, and I was like, what? Huh? Who? Huh? And they were like, Liz, did you fall? Are you in a safe place? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm just tired as shit. Like, just pretend you're talking to someone that knows nothing and let me catch up to you. Don't assume I'm with you when you start. I'm sure we'll see themes of that throughout tonight's episode. Do we have Panthers information ready to share? Okay, we will circle back. We will circle back. And in the meantime, it's time for an announcement.
Oh, can I predate this announcement?
Yes, absolutely you can.
So we all know I'm going to the Jonas Brothers next week, but I will actually be missing the next 3 weeks of shows. You know this. Everyone here already knew this.
Let us be dramatic, like everybody that's watching. Okay.
I legitimately did not know this because I thought you
did.
were...
I swear.
Oh, I do know this. Okay. I just checked the schedule. I did know this.
I'm missing the next 3 weeks of shows because I'm going to the Jonas Brothers, and then it's going to be Labor Day. And then something very exciting is happening.
What could it be? Dun, dun, dun. So if you follow me on Instagram, earlier today we shared the news that Liz at TIFF Round 2 is coming to your small screens over the next few weeks. We're going back to TIFF. We're doing more content than ever before. We're doing content at TIFF events. We're talking about non-struck work. We're in accordance with all strike guidelines and protocols. And
I'm coming too.
We have a guest star. We have a crossover episode, and we're going to be bunking it up. We're going to be one bed trope for many days. It will be very fun. We'll see who decides to sleep on the floor. We'll see how much happens in that room in terms of how small that double bed is and Marissa's inability to share a sleeping space. We will see what happens. I will probably be in the tub.
That is really targeted. That's really rude.
No,
I've shared many a bed in my life.
If I don't get updates,
how dare you?
Of Marissa dead asleep while Liz eats chips at 2 a.m. this time,
yeah.
I'm going to be really upset.
You guys, I finally will be reunited with my favorite potato chip. You cannot purchase all dressed chips in America. I'm so excited.
Oh, we're going to have so much fun. It's going to be great. So if you have content requests, challenges, anything of the sort that you would like to see Marissa and I cover, or a podcast or vlog while we're together, now is the time to start sending it in. But very exciting times for the girlies at TIFF. It's not just Liz at TIFF, it's girlies at TIFF. It'll be very fun. And there, there's more special announcements coming your way. There's more guest co-stars.
There could be more girlies.
Many more girlies to be announced. Some from previous seasons and some brand new guests. So keep an eye out. It will be a fun Vlogmas season for us. But that's the big announcement. We can finally share. TIFF is happening. It's been a very stressful time trying to figure out how to make it all happen while also not crossing the picket line. So now that it's all sorted, it is time for people to decide to sponsor us. And that is the next step of our quest. So if you see me doing commercial breaks during this episode for no reason at all, just know it is us trying to afford this. And that's actually also very thematical to the Red era. So we'll revisit that idea of sponsorship making things happen. Let's talk about something we haven't been enjoying. There was big news that broke today that really shook up us, a lot of people that are in our community and enjoy this show. Sly, do you want to share what happened?
I mean, sure, but I feel bad talking about this because I haven't seen season 1 of this show.
No, it's okay.
I saw, thanks to Bucky's lovely story on Instagram about this, that Amazon, our beloved, apparently is canceling A League of Their Own the half season 2 thing that they had announced previously. Boo is blaming it on the strike. Boo. And also released it today, which is very obviously a Friday, which means they're trying to bury it in the weekend dump. So nobody will talk about it. And I said, you know what? Fuck that. We're going to talk about it. So everybody remembers that this bullshit is happening.
This is the exact kind of moment I wish we had a soundboard hooked up to our thing. Like, hitting like some alarm bells and thumbs down. And, like, we need special effects right now. Marissa, I feel like you have a lot to say on this.
I do. Where to begin? The pickup of 4 episodes for season 2 was already really laughable. To begin with, that was slated to release to 2024. It is true that due to the strike, production has been halted, but it's not true that it's the union's fault. Let's just start with that. It's the AMPTP, of which Amazon Studios, Prime Studios, whatever they're called, is a member. It is their fault for refusing to agree to the demands of the unions for a fair contract and safe working conditions. And also, it should be said, this is also where Hollywood gets very, very confusing, because Amazon is not moving forward with production of the series, but or with the distribution of the series, but the production is actually through Sony, which is still another struck company, but so there is potential for it to be shopped around to another studio. Potential, because as we know,
theoretically it could be
queer work, female-led queer work from queer creators who also, the irony of the fact that the #1 movie on Prime right now is what it is, and then they did a little switcheroo and did this.
We can say what it is. We can say what it is. It's a film that shares the same themes as A League of Our Own. Like, let's be specific about this. Like, this is cut from the same cloth content.
Yes, it is parallel, but also in conflict, because there is a lovely little theme of male-led queer work where you can have hot dudes performing very differently to female-led queer work. So
I want to flag.
What an interesting piece of news to drop at about 3 p.m. Eastern.
On that note, I want to transition into like this article that has come out. It came out, was it today? Is today the 17th or is yesterday the 17th?
Today is the 18th.
So yesterday this dropped from the LA Times from Malia Mendez. In Syrian indictment of Hollywood diversity, USC film study shows 16 years of stasis. And it's basically saying that nothing in Hollywood has changed in terms of leading roles. And this is peer-reviewed scientific research that backs the fact that when you track gender, race, ethnicity of characters in each year's top 100 domestic films. And then as the study developed, they added LGBTQ plus status, and then they also added disability status. The findings reveal that none of these additions or greater emphasis on hiring and creating diverse roles has substantially increased the inclusion of underrepresented groups in those top 100. So, and A League of Our Own is a perfect example of a show that came out, had this cult-like following to it, had a great deal of meaning to people that found and saw themselves reflected in it, but did not chart like other shows that came out that year to both Sony and to not Amazon. Sorry, I'm like losing it now. It is Amazon.
Yeah,
right?
Distribution.
Right? So then they cut it. And it also leads to the secondary problem, which is that we as consumers like don't get access to the same data points that the top people at these companies do when it comes to what they actually deem their most successful shows. There is no reporting guidance across industry to force those stats to become transparent, so then companies can package whatever they want and release it in whatever way they want, including not telling us how shows are performing. So we can't even say that A League of Our Own had less views on Amazon than Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power did, because we know Rings of Power was like one of the top budgeted shows from Amazon. That was supposed to be like the flagship show and all of these different things, but they don't release the same data points created in the same reporting structure with the same level of transparency to the viewer for us to actually have credibility in comparing those things. And that's just within one streaming service. When you put it against a show like Only Murders in the Building, when you put it against a show like all these other things, these flagship shows across platforms, you also cannot judge them side by side, because we are entirely dependent on whatever the streaming service, the distributors, and the creators of those shows are willing to make public without telling us how that data was collected.
Yeah. And they even, I mean, like studio execs even restrict that information from the creators of the projects.
Yes.
Like so many showrunners have no idea what their performance numbers are on streamers. And it's one of the main reasons the WGA and SAG-AFTRA are on strike right now, is because they have no idea how their shows are actually performing on streaming, and they have no way to enforce whether the residuals they're receiving are accurate or not. Like, it is a crazy bananas system. And I had another thing to say, and I don't remember what it, yes, I do. I remember it now. When you look at the Annenberg report or like the GLAAD year-end report, like year after year, you can see like when they do like the year's roundup of like representation in media, the way it's reported, oftentimes it can feel like there's been an improvement because the percentages will change year to year. But what I think is really interesting about this new report out of Annenberg is that on the whole, like, the median has not changed, which is really fascinating because, like, there's a lot of times where you can be like, we had this many percentage increase in this type of representation this year. Woohoo, small victories.
But that's also not
but then when you
comparing
compound
it to how much more content
Right.
has been released this year. Feels like every year we
Right.
get more and more projects. So obviously these numbers are going to go up. But if we're not comparing them to like the amount of projects released, we're not getting an accurate understanding of if there is any growth at all.
And we're not getting the same data points around subscriber rates at the time of a show's release. So we what I'm about to say is a completely hypothetical scenario. We don't know if Amazon had 50 million subscribers in the US when A League of Our Own season 1 premiered, like premiere date. And we don't know if Amazon had 150 million subscribers 4 months later when they stopped promoting A League of Our Own within their algorithm, right? And these are all impacts on how people find those shows, how they're searchable on those platforms, and if they decide to watch them. We also don't know the exact targeting of these shows to user profiles. So like when you rate something popular or not popular, what shows it feeds you and why. We know that every streaming service does this. We know when you watch a Marvel movie on Disney Plus, it recommends more comic superhero Marvel films. Yeah. Like we know that's something that it does. We know when you watch the Hunger Games on Netflix, it recommends you things like Shadow and Bone because it's YA, same kind of like thing. Same with Divergent, same with Twilight. But we don't know when a streaming service decides they're done promoting something, how pieces and projects move in and out of the algorithm if they do at all. And we don't know, we don't have accurate data points around like how many people were accessible to the content at the time of its peak promotion. We know every Amazon user was promoted Rings of Power. We know every Amazon user is promoted The Summer I Turned Pretty, no matter what your user profile is, because those are flagship shows for the streaming service, regardless of your demographic. But let's say those did not go well. We also don't know when you are stopped recommended to watch such programs. Data integrity is so, my whole life is data integrity right now. I'm so wrapped up in it every single day and around how not having foundational points of reference fuck you in the future. And it's so relevant in this conversation because those conversations are happening within companies, within the community of people that it takes to build and ship those projects, both like you said, the people that actually work on the project, like the writers, the directors, the talent, the showrunners, the people that work on the marketing side that have their budgets determined by the success of a show, the people that work on the distribution side that are distributing the project, and then the people at the top that are seeing the bottom line have impact by the success of a project. All of those people are not aligned. So how could we on the opposite side of that, on the consumer side, have any idea what is actually happening if all of those stakeholder groups are also not aligned? And this is where I get passionate about federal regulation, but like I'm going to save that for another time.
There was an antitrust proposal this week from the WGA. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
We'd love to see it. You know what we also love to see? Oh, sorry. I was just taking over your entire show.
Our show. Our after party. We throw the after party. You transition slide.
We have 2 eras of Taylor Swift to talk about, and some of my feelings may or may not have changed. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with the disclaimer that we put out there last week. That is the official disclaimer of this series. When we talk about what we do and don't like, our ratings of the songs, our ratings of the album, it is our opinion. And it is our right to have opinions, just like it's your right to have your opinions. And that's part of the fun of being a fan of media in general, is that everyone has different opinions. And we know there are members of this community and people on screen that are diehard for different Taylor Swift albums. We know everyone here agrees that Exile is the best Taylor Swift song of all time.
Sure. Keep saying that out loud, Liz.
Yeah, so it's interesting to go into a conversation like tonight with that in mind, because I think we're all over the map of what we do and don't like from Speak Now and Red, and then what the Taylor's version era has meant to us. So let's remember this is all in an effort to open the doors to anyone to come into this community and feel like they can be a Taylor Swift fan with the opinions that they have. Except if your opinion is that Jake Gyllenhaal did nothing wrong, we don't welcome you here because he definitely
No,
did.
you can go. Bye-bye.
Okay, so with that said, tonight we are talking about Speak Now and Red and the Taylor's versions of each album. And as usual, we will start with our first segment, Sly's Big Questions.
That's great. I'm going to turn that on your head because I wrote for my first note here, I don't have any questions about Speak Now. It's a vibe and I adore it. And that's all that matters. So let's just talk about Speak Now.
Yeah, let's do it. What was your reaction to Speak Now?
When I was first doing that big listen through, The only thing I knew about Speak Now is it had Enchanted, which is one of my favorite songs, mostly because of a specific edit to that song, and also because it's on a couple playlists that I really adore that also have to do with that particular ship of a struck work. So I love Enchanted. It's probably my favorite Taylor Swift song ever. It's up there. It's like that Right Where You Left Me, like Dress/Delicate is up there. Like
Exile, clearly.
Exile is
top of
up
that
there.
list.
I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's definitely up there. I agree. It's an excellent song.
Exile is not up there for me, and I will proudly say it.
Okay. But yeah, no, I
Absolutely
love
not.
Sleeping in the
Elizabeth.
tub. You're sleeping in the tub. Continue.
I loved Enchanted, and then I listened to Speak Now, and I had a lot of strong feelings. Most of them positive, some of them negative. But overall, very much enjoy. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Here is the $1 million question. Do you know the story behind Enchanted? Let's just start there. This is the starting point for the evening. Who knows the story of Enchanted? Show of hands, including everybody watching.
I don't even know what that question means.
I only know what that question means because I got a text today about this song, and it was the most relatable thing I've ever read in my entire life, and I am trying to frantically scroll through our bajillion messages to get to like 9 a.m. this morning. Don't mind me.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, I will preface this message that I know Sly is about to read by saying that when Taylor Swift started talking about like eras as like a thing, when we like conceptualized what all of these different albums were supposed to mean, I was really attached to that idea. And it wasn't until I was watching you all talk about some of her work last week that I realized that really, I think the reason I like the idea of eras so much is that it's like, not only is it like chapters of her life, but Taylor is somebody who is constantly reinventing herself while sharing a narrative about like not wanting to have to reinvent herself, right? Which I think is interesting. And I think in that, what we're really seeing in these eras, which Liz, you pointed out in this doc when you started talking about like Broadway influences and stuff that we'll get into later, that we're really just seeing like a long line of hyperfixations, but we grouped them into these little like storybook chapters and gave them like a name, which is an incredibly like neurodivergent thing and something that I really attached to. And that got me thinking about other neurodivergence in Taylor Swift songs, which is where this text message came from.
And this, of course, is the text. I just love that she met a guy for a minute, hyperfixated, created a daydream, and wrote a whole song about it.
Oh, I did know this. Whenever Liz like starts talking about Taylor Swift lore, I assume it's like from some like deep dark web chat channel that no one has ever seen, and then it ends up just being like basic information about a song.
It's true. True. Really trying to gauge where people are at with all this. I also like creating drama for everybody. So I did just toss the link in the comments if you're unfamiliar with all of this. It's a great summary of everything that's been said on screen, plus a little bit of cringe thrown on top. The neurodivergence of Taylor Swift music is a theme that we need to like spend a lot of time on in a future episode because it is so interesting. And to go back to the point about the groupings of and categorizations of chapters, I think Speak Now is one that is particularly finite and really set the tone for how she approaches it in future albums. Part of the reason why I struggle with Speak Now is because it is so, it is one of the most holistic albums she has ever done, in that it has such a clear identity, and yet it is like a book to me. When I listen to Speak Now, it is like a book versus when there are other Taylor Swift albums that don't feel that way to me necessarily. And that's not a bad thing. It's just my taste with it. So I really appreciate the way that you framed that, Alexis, because I think it's very relevant to tonight's conversation. Ooh, there's also, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I was just agreeing with you.
There's also, when it comes to Enchanted, this. So,
wow.
These images defined so much of 2010's styling, pop culture, posters on the walls of teens around the world. So on the left, you have the Wonderstruck perfume look, which is deeply Enchanted based. And then on the right, you have the album booklet, promotional lithograph, poster image to associate with Enchanted. And both of these became iconic Taylor Swift references. Wow. Totally dramatic, totally over the top, totally fairy tale, totally Speak Now.
I can 100% see both of these looks being the like iconic prom dress style for the early 2010s. Like,
good, because your wife wore the one on the right to her prom in 2010.
Really?
Almost identical, yeah, because of that poster.
Because okay, so Alexis,
yeah,
I am thrilled. Literally, we have an example of someone who did exactly that. I am so thrilled to hear this. I would love a photo, but we can park that for another.
I'll put it on the Mama Blake list.
Mama Blake follow-up request. Please find a reference to Alexis in the Enchanted dress. Okay, we could talk about Enchanted literally all night, and we'll come back to the perfume. Sly, what is your next question or talking point that you would like to go to?
I just want us to do all of our Speak Now discussion before we get into all of my big questions. Because all of my big questions are about Red.
Red? Okay, no, that's perfect. Let's talk about Speak Now era. There is a lot when it comes to the Speak Now era. And the one piece of it that you absolutely cannot move into Speak Now without understanding is something that we started a discussion on last week and we need to continue a discussion on tonight. And that is the Jonas Brothers of it all. Jonas Brothers are essential to Speak Now. And I am thrilled to introduce our next segment, which is called, and say it with me, everyone. Can Alexis the Jonas Brothers.
I'm so sad we didn't have this last week. Oh, I missed it so much. I'm just so sad that I'm only going to be here for 1 week of it.
But you know what? Next week, Marissa in the flesh will be able to confirm what their names are for us. So we will have a literal first person record. We are gathering primary data
live on the scene.
Live primary data collection next week. But for now, the sub caption of this segment is spoiler alert. She absolutely cannot.
I'm not even sure how many of them there are, to be quite honest with you.
Even better.
And I don't
and
even
that's
have
fine.
I don't even have like names to pull from. I've got nothing.
So can you enlighten us a little bit around this point? Because this came up when we were planning the series and we built it into a whole segment. Who are the Jonas Brothers to you? And are there other brothers that you cannot differentiate between?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So for me, for a really long time, I knew the Jonas Brother from Smash. And I was in a weird age differential. Like I was aging out of the Disney Channel when the Jonas Brothers really became a thing. And I wasn't really allowed to watch a lot of Disney anyway. So I just didn't have that exposure. So he was on Smash and I was like, who is this random ass guy on Smash? And somebody at the time was like, oh, he's one of he's a Jonas Brother. So for a long time for Alexis, and still kind of to this day, there were two Jonas Brothers. There was the one that could sing And it was the one that was on Smash, and maybe also Jumanji. But at one point, I thought that was two different Jonas Brothers, and then I conflated them again.
And when I tell you, when I heard all of this, it made complete sense to me. It makes absolutely. There's the one that was on Smash and the one that can sing. And I know exactly which one is which. Is that all of the Jonas Brothers? No. That's some of them.
I discovered that. So I was watching I saw a clip on TikTok that was like a roast with the Jonas Brothers and their significant others. And there were more than two. And that's when I started thinking that maybe that was like, guys, that was like early this year. Like thinking, oh, maybe there are more. But I do this thing where I often think there are three of something, and then I find out there's a fourth. So I was thinking there were three Jonas Brothers, but I was like, maybe this is like a situation where there's like three that are in
this is amazing,
and then there's a hidden brother.
Correct.
You're exactly right.
This is proving once and for all why Alexis is the one in this group going for a PhD, because that deduction was just miraculous to watch unfold.
Empirical data. Yeah.
So
well, listen,
when you're talking about the Jonas Brothers, are you talking about the musical group or the family? Because how many of them there are is a different answer for each.
Yes.
Oh. Okay. Well, I assumed, a trend I have noticed in the sports is that there are often three brothers that are famous and one brother that ended up somewhere else. Okay. So I assumed, based on that trend in sports, that there were maybe three in the band and there was one that is somewhere else. But please know that even when I'm saying this, in my head, it is like the Chuck E. Cheese animatronic band. Like, I have no visual representation for who these people are.
Not the Chuck E. Cheese animatronic band.
The incredible part is that, like, you're 100% accurate so far. You've named no names, but I'm following your thought process 100%.
This is like when you're doing a math exam and they want you to show your work. And you get a lot of points for the process being correct, even if like the numbers end up being wrong at the end. Like if this was a math exam, you'd be like, you would already be like at least 50%. If not, I'd be giving you 60%.
Yeah, strong 80. Yeah,
fantastic. That's basically.
Could you throw a couple names out there for potential Jonas Brothers?
Okay.
And if you would like to hear what you think they do.
I have a follow-up also. Let's get names first, and then I'll go for my
follow-up. Okay. I know there is a Joe. But
there we go.
Consistently unclear as to whether Joe is the one in Smash or whether Joe is the one that sings.
Do you want the answer?
Is the third member of the animatronic band. And I don't know whether the third member of the animatronic band, the one that can sing, or the one in Smash, I'm not sure which one of those dated Taylor Swift.
Amazing. That was my follow-up question.
I know the one that dated Taylor Swift. Well, no, I said that with way too much confidence. Never mind. I think the one that dated Taylor Swift was married to Sophie Turner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Still is.
But
happily.
I don't know which one that is.
Great.
Cool. Great.
Shall we give Alexis an answer?
All of the information you have said is so accurate. This is amazing.
Let's wrap this one up. I think Alexis deserves a gold star. All of the information you have currently provided is Joe Jonas.
Oh, they're all
Joe Jonas. Joe Jonas is married to Sophie Turner. Okay. He dated Taylor Swift, and he is the one that can sing.
Oh, so who's in Joe Jonas isn't in Smash?
No.
Nick?
Okay.
Is in Smash?
That name sounds familiar. Okay.
Which is the one I would think of when you said the one that could sing. I would think of Nick.
Well, The one that was in Smash was having a bad vocal day. Because I do not remember being like, oh, you're a singer. Like, I remember being like, who did you know to end up in this show? You shouldn't be here.
And here I'll pause.
Incredible.
Here I will pause you and say, another day where we questioned if Nick Jonas could sing is this day.
What is this?
This is the lamest concert.
This is definitive culture in Marissa's life. Listen, clear the screen, Liz.
Oops, sorry.
In 2012, when all of you were listening.
What happened? Oh, there we go.
I pressed
Thank
the wrong
God.
button.
Famously, in 2012, when all of you were listening to Red by Taylor Swift, I was listening to the Les Mis 25th anniversary concert with Nick Jonas as Marius, and he did not deliver.
Okay, follow-up question. Is the man in Smash and the man in Jumanji, are those the same Jonas brother? Or are those two different
Yes.
Jonas brothers? Those
Nope,
are the same.
same.
One. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So we have Joe
And Nick?
and we have Nick. Nick,
Mhm.
who disgraced Les Mis,
Okay,
standing beside none other than Mr. Oh my God, what's his name? My mind isn't with me.
Ramin Karamlu.
Carmelu, yes, from Mr. Funny Girl himself. Quick side transition. There is another connection here that must be made, which is Taylor Swift auditioned for the Les Mis movie opposite Eddie Redmayne. So now we're really getting into a full, like, interconnected web of Disney Channel, Taylor Swift, Jonas Brothers, and Les Mis.
And the
I have
25th
one more
anniversary
Jonas Brothers
live in
question.
concert, the 25th anniversary Les Mis concert and the movie came out in the same year. So there were two 2012 Les Mises,
Mhm.
and like there's a deep convergence of all of it.
That's
Back
another
to the
episode.
Jonas Brothers, I'm
That's
sorry.
another episode.
Yeah.
We will do a whole episode
Yeah.
about that. Please continue your Jonas Brothers questions.
Okay. At one point, there was a clip on TikTok that I kept seeing that implied that the one who doesn't usually sing could like really sing, and all of a sudden people were swooning over the one that I guess didn't typically sing, while one of them played the guitar, and I thought it was the one from Smash, but it may be the one that sings. And I think that this new one that can sing is the third brother, who I have no name for.
Would you like to guess? Throw it a guess.
Pick
Jess.
the most boring white man name.
Yeah.
Matt?
Okay. No, that's
Really
a good answer.
energetically close.
That's, yeah,
Energetically close.
we're in the right sport.
Luke?
Wait, no, hold on. Off of your previous guess, go to a cousin.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know that I know the answer to that.
Oh, I was trying to help you out.
I know you were.
It's 2 syllables.
Okay, ready? Well, I'll say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Kevin.
Oh, no. That's that. Okay. Yeah, we were never going to get there.
It's okay. That's the general consensus around Kevin. Unfortunately, throughout all of time, Kevin was the
Kevin.
forgotten Jonas brother.
Okay. But there's another, there's one that's more forgotten, right? Because there's a
Correct.
fourth one.
Yes.
And that would be Frankie Jonas.
Frankie.
And
Who had a
Frankie
bunch of
Jonas,
drama on TikTok that I did not pay attention to at
he
all.
became a TikTok star. He and Kevin co-host the new hit TV show about like people that go on a reality show who have a famous family member, and then you have to guess
Claim to fame.
claim to fame. Yeah, it's a
Hmm.
whole thing.
Nobody can guess Donny Osmond. It's been a real drama.
Cool. Great.
All right,
We're totally
so-
following.
But Please know that I have already forgotten which one is which. So when we play this game,
And that is the point of the game.
I will still be like, but which one is married to Sophie Turner?
So,
Valid.
which one dated Taylor Swift?
That's the one that's married to Sophie Turner.
Joe
I can say.
Jonas.
Joe Jonas. She only dated the one, right? Because there was a part of me today that was like, maybe she dated both Joe and Nick. And that is where some of my confusion is coming from.
It's a good
Did
question.
Selena
No, but
date
Miley
the other
Cyrus
one?
and Selena Gomez did. Yes.
Okay.
They both dated Nick. And Demi
Miley
Miley and Selena.
Third one.
Kevin was older, and he's been with Danielle, his wife, forever. So Kevin was never like on the market.
He was never on the market.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Kevin was never the heartthrob. Nick and Joe both had their moments.
And Demi Lovato had a whole thing with Camp Rock, and the Jonas Brothers were in Camp Rock, and Demi and Joe were heavily linked during so Demi and Taylor and Joe are like one pile, and Miley and Selena and Nick are another pile.
Now, one of them had a Barbie doll with a phone he didn't use. Was that Joe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is in reference to the Fearless
He has
era.
a phone to call other Barbies, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Good work, Alexis, because Joe broke up with Taylor on a 27-second phone call. And that inspired a whole bunch of shit on the Fearless album. And that carried over into Speak Now. So on Speak Now, you get Last Kiss, which is about Joe Jonas. What else on Speak Now is about Joe Jonas? I'm trying to remember right now. Anyway, you have remnants of the Joe Jonas era that carry over into Speak Now. And that's what's important.
Yes.
All right. I can't wait to revisit this segment next week.
We need to do a whole episode about the 2010s on Disney Channel.
Yeah, 100% we do. And oh yeah, there's so much to talk about there. Let's go back to Speak Now, though, and talk about the era itself, because we could talk a lot about the songs. Yes. We could talk a lot about like the stories on them, but the drama's too good. So let's keep talking about the drama and bring in our another it boy of Speak Now, which is Team Jacob and the Taylor Lautner of it all. So this is where you get the movie Valentine's Day, where Taylor makes a movie debut. Yes. And she even gets the 13 written on her hand. And it's quite a moment. It's quite a moment. And you also get Taylor Lautner doing a flip in that movie, which comes back to haunt us in the most recent video that she just put out called I Can See You, which is a Speak Now vault track, which features Taylor Lautner in the vault. So it really all comes together here. You get back to December about Taylor Lautner. Taylor Lautner was the one who presented Taylor with her MTV VMA Video of the Year Award for You Belong With Me when Kanye West came on stage and said, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Beyonce had the best video of all time." And Taylor Lautner always regretted not like stepping in to stop it because he thought it was part of the show. And he didn't know until they were leaving the stage that like it was not a part of the show, and Taylor was distraught. So Taylor Lautner is very like much the core of like Speak Now era. It was Pain. It was Public Scrutiny. It was Innocent, which is a track about Kanye West. It was their breakup and how bad their breakup was because it was kind of on Taylor and like, bleh, bleh, so much.
And then a teenage girl couldn't write these lyrics of it all on top.
Well, we'll come back to the self-writtenism of it all in a minute. But Alexis, what else do you remember from this era?
I just in regards to Taylor Lautner, I remember it being a big deal, at least in my circles, that Back to December is a song in which she admits she did something wrong, because that wasn't something that we had heard in like her previous breakup songs. And something that in listening to you all talk last week, you know, Taylor's age came up a lot. The idea that like Taylor was young and they were trying to sell this youth that was both like relatable and aspirational, right? And I think one of the things that's interesting with going in to Speak Now is that for me, this is the album where her youth stops mattering and instead becomes like a weapon against her. And part of that was this commentary in Back to December, like, oh, well, she's mature enough now to admit that she's wrong. But it also came up a lot with like Dear John, where it was like, well, she's been in this industry long enough to know better. It doesn't matter that she's still young and like he's twice her age. So I think that's when her youth really starts becoming like this double-edged sword when we get to this as an album, which I think is interesting.
Let's dig into that and talk about Dear John and the John Mayer of it all, because I think that's like where you have the Joe Jonas and the Taylor Lautner, which a lot of people could condense down into teen drama, right? John Mayer kind of blew up into this out of the box thing, which is exactly what you're talking about, Alexis. So you do have on one end, oh, this is like Disney Channel drama, and this is Joe Jonas, and this is Twilight, and this is teen. And also, she's a fully grown woman who should know better and like not talk shit about John Mayer. And it's like, whoa, those are very different opinions to have and very telling about like the child star complex in Hollywood and how the worst thing a woman can do is age and the best thing a man can do is age. Right? It's like very scary what happens to her here. And then you have John Mayer like going on this weird kind of press thing, which was a little bit more in the Red era. And he was really sleazy in the press. And like, she's like, he never called her any like bad names. It was just very sleazy about the whole thing. And then he puts out Paper Doll, which was like his response song, which is a very sleazy song about how, oh, you were so brittle and like anyone could break you. And like, oh, you were just a little paper doll I was playing with. I don't take it so seriously. And like it really contributed to this narrative of like, deflating her opinion on what happened. And now in a 2023 context, you look back on Dear John and maybe you have a little bit of a different opinion because of how like the Me Too era has shaped conversations like this. But pre-Me Too, there was no nuance. It was man versus woman and man won.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say that Dear John, at the time, Dear John was like one of like her most incredibly written songs, right? And this is where you get into the lyricism of it all. So I'd love to toss it back over to that conversation because she went into this album with all the criticism of Fearless being that she had help. She won her Grammys and all of those awards because she had help. She had songwriters, she had collaborators, she had people singing backup vocals. She had all of these things that were helping her make Fearless good. So she spun it into, I'm going to write an entirely self-written album with no co-collaborator, so they can't say that about me anymore. And you get Speak Now. And all of a sudden, she's like trying to prove people wrong. And in doing so, she's also not like the shiny jewel of country music anymore. And she's not the shiny jewel of the Grammys anymore. And she's not really like the shiny jewel of anything. She's just still around doing the same kind of storytelling she's been doing.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that like I didn't appreciate. And I said this a little bit last week. I think that was one of the things that I didn't really appreciate at the time during the original Speak Now release. I was very like tangentially attached to Speak Now. Like I got all the singles. I was into the Taylor Lautner drama. I was very much in my Twilight era. But like the album as a whole, I didn't really grab onto. I think I probably had spun through it, but like it wasn't like an album that like spoke to me. But I was so pleasantly surprised in listening to the Taylor's version of Speak Now, how much more I could appreciate it like 10 years on, more than 10 years on. of like the actual like craftsmanship of it beyond just like, do I like the beat or not? Which is very interesting. And we talked about this when Speak Now Taylor's version came out, of like the in the moment feeling of the original recording of the album versus the reflective perspective on the Taylor's version. And that's an interesting way to think about the album in like the consumer perspective of like consuming it from a reflective perspective, and thinking about like the era in which it was written and recorded and released, and like the circumstances around it. I find like gives me that much more appreciation for it, because like it wasn't ever like the bottom of my list, but it was very much like a gloss over, like, yeah, it has like cute songs about fairy tales and whatever, which is very interesting.
Well, I think that really speaks to two things. One, how ahead of her time she was with this. Like, this is an album that lives better in 2023 than it did at the time of release. And two, what Big Machine Records was asking of her at that time as well. Because the Fearless album, one of the most heavily awarded country albums in history, one of the biggest moments for women in country music. People were saying that like Taylor Swift was saving country music for the next generation, and it was at the hands of this like indie label in Nashville, Big Machine Records, one of the biggest grossing tours for a country music artist in history, one of the biggest tours in history with the Fearless tour, the 15-hour meet and greet that she did at CMA Fest that broke like shattered records of what CMA Fest could be and like reinvented what that festival looks like. Like all the promotions around Fearless with her appearances and her late night and her music videos and her award show performances. And she had to, and she talks about this a little bit in the creation of like Speak Now, how she had to create something after that. And like, how could you create anything in those circumstances? And then you add the personal level with like the Disney Channel friend group, Joe Jonas, Taylor Lautner, John Mayer, and how she's in these, and the Kanye moment at the VMAs, which like destroyed her at the time. Like you have all of these pieces. Like how could you create anything in that? And then she makes the decision it's going to be a completely self-written album. It's going to be Speak Now. It's going to be entirely written by me. So it's also hard, and I think in that moment with the spectacle of Taylor Swift and the PR of Taylor Swift to take that album and like digest the circumstance versus now you can look back and be like, holy shit, it's incredible that she did anything. It's incredible she did anything.
I also think it's commentary that I saw like on the cusp of the Taylor's version of Speak Now coming out. It was like right before we got it like in our hands. A lot of the conversation that I saw about Dear John in particular and the craftsmanship of that song was this sudden realization by people that she mimics his guitar playing very intentionally in parts of that song, which was not something that was on anybody's radar at the time, right? And I think it's because of how the album was built, like you were saying, Liz, like how the album was built and marketed in culture at the time versus how we see Taylor now. Like at the time Speak Now came out, we weren't talking about Taylor as a songwriter really until we were like nearing the end of that album, right? And now songwriting is so equated to who she is, and this excellent craftsmanship is so equated to who she is. When we listen to any of her music now, we pick up those things intuitively because that is part of the billing of what we are being given, which I think is fascinating.
Well said. So with that, I want to talk about a moment that is really that all collapsed into one star. And it's the Grammys performance that she did during the Speak Now era when she performed Mean. And this was a moment that like was all the headline for the week following, was this Mean performance. It tore up like every entertainment show, print, like newspaper, everything. any commentator was talking about this performance. It was like earth-shattering. And it was big drama, going back to the idea of how Broadway influenced this album. She had a huge set. Everyone was in period costuming. They all looked like they were from like Oklahoma or something to me. Like they're all in these like kind of interesting outfits. It's more country twang than how she recorded it. And it's a reflection of like the world coming at her, even though the song Mean is about a very specific instance with a reviewer. This performance was about this entire moment coming at her and her walking out of the set and into like the catwalk of the stage and singing like someday, I get goosebumps when I'm even like remembering this. When she goes, someday I'll be singing this at the Grammys and all you're ever going to be is mean. Like that, like the whole world collapsed when she sang that. It was completely like she is on her shit. Like she knows what she's about and like we cannot underestimate her. And then this is how the Speak Now tour became as like huge as it was. And she did the Drops of Jupiter cover Under the Tree that spun around. And she did all of these like really iconic like pieces in her tour that were very high drama, high camp. Like the storytelling, the presentation of these stories of her life became a different narrative than in the past. So yes, to all of what Alexis was saying, like we saw that immediately in like the output that she was giving us. And then, like, we get a lot of that continued in the Red era. So before we go all the way into Red, what else from Speak Now do we want to bring to the table?
You want to go through our rankings now?
Yeah, that sounds good to everyone. We're ready to do some Speak Now rankings.
Yes, let's be controversial.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, Sly, a reminder that Sly gets to rank more songs than the rest of us because this is Sly's first time doing the rankings. So Sly, you get us started with your Speak Now rankings. Let's start at 6 and work our way up to 1.
Okay. I want to preface this with on my original spreadsheet rankings because of course there were 2 versions of mine on that version. It did make the top 5 twice, which is not reflected here. So just know that.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Number 6, we have specifically the haunted acoustic version, not the regular haunted. That was ranked way lower.
No, that's taste. That's taste.
All right. Number 5, I have The Story of Us, a bop. Number 4, we have Better Than Revenge. And I'm also going to caveat that with I am pro both the pro sex work version and the re-record version. I like them both. After I've broken Alexis, number 3, I have Mine. Number 2, Mean. And number 1, In My Heart, End of All Time, Enchanted.
It's a good list. I respect it. Would you like to do your vault tracks or should we just do this and come back to the vault tracks?
We'll come back to the vault tracks in a second.
Okay. Who wants to share their rankings next?
I want Alexis to read how her rankings was written out because she may or may not have been a part of doing that.
All right, Alexis, it's over to you. Your top 3.
Alexis is finding her rankings. Hang on. Dear John.
Yeah.
Well, first I feel like I need to say that Sly does this thing where they like really think about the songs and like weigh like music and like lyricism and like they put all this thought into it. And I was like, what 3 songs do I yell in my car the most? And those are the songs that made the list. So they were Dear John, Better Than Revenge, the pro sex work version, and Haunted.
A good list. A good list. Absolutely.
This is indecisive Libras having just parallel thought because I also, it's no critical thought, just vibes. This is what my heart wants. And my ranking, listen, I write my own rules. Number
Mhm.
3 is a 3-way tie of Back to December, Story of Us, and Mean, and I'm not apologizing for that. Number 2
She
is
said,
Better Than
even though she
Revenge.
wrote "I'm sorry" in all capital letters.
No, because it's a defensive I'm sorry. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I won't choose.
See, tone matters. Tone really matters. But I read that the same as Alexis.
Listen, number 2 is Better Than Revenge. I don't care which version. And number 1 is Dear John.
I love it. I love it. Now is the point in the show where I remind you that the saddest songs on every album will be in my top 3.
Yeah.
The
I
saddest.
didn't need a reminder.
That's right.
Okay.
We all know.
So my number 3 is Long Live. I get very emo listening to Long Live. It's a very emo, sad girl song. Long Live is for the emo, sad girls that have been in the Taylor Swift community for over a decade. 2, Sparks Fly, which I remember when Sparks Fly was recorded at a Fearless show and put on Tumblr in like 1 pixel quality. And we were like, what is this song? And it was one of the like iconic lore Taylor Swift songs. And then I remember the track list came out and Sparks Fly was on the track list. And we were all like, oh, we're getting Sparks Fly. It was like the biggest, it was the same energy actually as the All Too Well 10-minute version announcement. Like those moments are sisters. It was the exact same. So Sparks Fly is a very special place in my heart. And then I have a 2-way tie for first with Last Kiss and Mean. And I, to this day, would say that Last Kiss is one of her best bridges.
It's a really good song.
Gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
I think it would be a more gut-wrenching song to me if in my head, since I had heard it the first time, I knew it was about a Jonas brother whom I didn't know. That kind of like, it feels so unserious to me when it's like, oh, it's about this guy I only know as a Barbie doll that was mentioned on like,
And you're so
valid.
real for that.
Let's quickly do our vault tracks from Speak Now as well. Sly, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think mine is the definitive answer, and I stand by that. So, like, hashtag sorry, not sorry, but this is the correct list. It's number 1, Electric Touch, number 2, Castles Crumbling, and number 3, Timeless.
Okay, Alexis, how about you try and go after that? What's your top 3 vault tracks?
My first one is Electric Touch, and that's on Spousal Solidarity. And the second is I Can See You, because I think that's a bop. And the third is just all of the rest of them, because I really didn't like feel particularly strongly about any of the other ones.
Yeah, I wish I had gone that way. I kind of feel the same way. I put my number 1 is I Can See You. Number 2 is Foolish Ones. And number 3 is Electric Touch. And I did also do that out of Sly solidarity.
Thank you. I will say, if I had seen the I Could See You music video before, like 15 minutes ago during the show, when I remembered I forgot to watch it in preparation, it would have probably made the list.
No, that's
like,
fair.
the song is whatever, but the music video fucking slaps. So.
Yeah, listen, that's a valid take.
Yeah.
Marissa?
Number 1, I Can See You. Number 2, Timeless. I'm a Mary song girl. I'm a timeless girl. Everyone get off my back.
The
Number
Venn
3
diagram
is
is a
Foolish One.
circle. The
Venn diagram is a circle. Yeah, number 3 is Foolish One.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you why. I like all the Speak Now vault tracks, but Foolish One spoke to me.
Foolish One, every once in a while I just start singing it and I'm like, where did you come from?
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's got like an
It wormed its way in. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I have one final big question about Speak Now.
Okay.
And this will lead us into our Red discussion. And that is, why do I like Red, the song, and not like Speak Now, the song, when I don't like Red, the album, and I do like Speak Now, the album? Please discuss.
Ooh, this is juicy.
That's fascinating.
I have an immediate thesis that I can
Please
say
share.
very quickly.
Great.
Speak Now, right, is an album, as eloquently said by Alexis, which is a very categorized, thoroughly developed tone, vibe album, of which the title Speak Now for the album is not reflective of the title Speak Now in the song, in my opinion. And then you see that in the album booklet as well. She's talking about, like, I don't think you should wait. I think you should speak now. And it's about every moment in life when you wish you would speak, including interrupting a wedding. Red is a fucking mess of an album. And that is the era. Red is mess. And we're going to talk a lot about how Red was like the crossroads of Taylor Swift's career and how there was so much at stake and so much going on and so many voices in her head. And the title of the album, Red, makes sense in a lot of contexts, but especially in the song Red, which is like confusion. You know? Like loving him was red, like missing him was blue, like I never know. Like it's everything. Like it's a mess, you know? So I think that it makes perfect sense. Like these two albums side by side share a lot of the same traits of like tone and storytelling and the mix of pop and country, but like one is methodical and barely, like, it doesn't just like not go off script. Like it is the script. That is the Taylor Swift template. And Red threw that out the window and was like, no, it's time to experiment and like just channel whatever is here. So that's my take on it. I'd love to open the floor about the differences between these albums.
No, I think that's right. We talked about it a little bit before the show started, but like it is fascinating to put Speak Now and Red next to each other in this conversation because it feels like in terms of like chapters of Taylor Swift, like musically, thematically, whatever, like Fearless and Debut fit together pretty well. 1989 and Reputation fit together pretty well. But Speak Now and Red feel like they have one foot in very different like worlds. Like there is a very clear like bridge to draw between them, but like they feel very separate from each other. It feels like Red is very much a departure from Speak Now, a departure from the times before Speak Now, and like that's intentional and that's the point, and it's about risk taking, but it is very interesting to think about them in conversation with each other.
I would pose a question at this point, which is when Speak Now is being developed, not necessarily the age in which it was toured, but when Speak Now is being brought to life, that's like 18, 19, 20. In fact, I don't even think it's 20, right? And then Red is like 19, 20, 21.
Those are two very different eras of life in general. Like, that I think it's really interesting. Like you were saying, like Speak Now does have some connection to the early Taylor. It's like very much like country pop. It's like those two have to go together with this. It's the very edge of that like marketing as like young teen girl. And then Red is like a very hard departure to like the difference between like girlhood and womanhood, I think, is that line we're seeing here with the thematic elements, the storylines, and also like the sound of her in both of these.
It's like literally the lyric in Nothing New. How can a person know everything at 18 and nothing at 22? Like, Speak Now is this like perfect, nice little box, and then Red is like, and like that is how it feels.
It's the trauma response.
How it feels to be 18 and 22, which is ridiculous, but amazing.
Alexis, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this before we start digging into other pieces.
Oh, I think you all said everything. When I was doing research for this show, the one thing that stood out to me was that Speak Now is very much, even though it's an album that like Taylor wrote by herself, in all of the press that she does about her life at the time, it is clear that she was told what to say and she said it, right?
Mhm.
She even talks about like, I'm moving to the heart of Nashville because I'm, loyal to country music. No, she wasn't. Like, we know we can hear in Speak Now that like clearly she was wanting to leave country music to something else. Like, we can already hear that in parts of that record, but she was still holding fast, even at the end of the tour, to I'm moving to Nashville because I'm loyal to country music. I'm opening this education center for country music. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm doing it. And I think in Red, we start to see Taylor want to craft her own story, which really carries us through to Reputation. But I think that difference of like, I am doing what you tell me to do, to
Mhm.
I have opinions now, I don't want to do what you tell me to do, is very clear in kind of those albums, like that we see that difference in the music as well.
For sure.
And you also hear in Red in a way that you don't in Speak Now. It's like there's like the battle of country and pop, but Red is where she explored everything. It was, hold on, we have visual aids for this section of my speech. You have her doing folk with Begin Again, which I thought I had uploaded. Yeah, like this is a folk cover. That was the single art for Begin Again. That's not even country music. That is a straight up folk aesthetic. You have rock with the We're Never Getting Back Together remix that she did, like the hard rock version. You have her in pop, like hard pop with like 22 and I Knew You Were Trouble. And you have her kind of venturing into like some pop punk vocals along the way. She's friends with all these like punk artists at this time as well that are coming in. You have her going all the way alternative with the Hunger Games collaborations for Safe and Sound and for Keep Your Eyes Open is what it's called, with the Civil Wars. Like she's everywhere. So she's not loyal to country music, but she's like, I don't know what I'm loyal to, and I'm going to put it all in this album and see what hits for me and for the people that listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
We have lots of questions from Sly for this era, so keep them coming. What do you want to go to next?
Let's go to something a little more lighthearted. Is Taylor Swift actually a Happy Days, the TV show, fan? Or did I just decide that as a fact for her? Do we know? Any ideas?
I could not even tell you what that TV show is.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, okay. It's from the, I want to say, I can't remember if it's 60s, 70s, or 70s to 80s, but it was like a huge TV show.
No. Okay.
You would know,
yes.
the theme song, I'm betting.
Yes.
However, in one video, I can't remember which one anymore, there was a heart arch or whatever that says Happy Days, and that paired with that one bright lunchbox in the other music video that I also can't remember, the Office one where it's all gray and then she has the bright lunchbox. Those two pieces of information, I was like, she's a Happy Days fan. And I didn't know if that was a real thing or if I just decided that for her.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, cool.
All right, let's keep it moving. Next question.
Next hard-hitting question. Why on earth is the I Knew You Were Trouble lyric saddest fear and not stratosphere, like I would have sworn on my life it was? Because I think my brain's autocorrect lyric is a stronger choice.
I also I thought it was Stratosphere when the album first came out.
Okay.
I remember that vividly.
God. Stratosphere is a more interesting word, but but like within the sentence, it doesn't really make sense. But it is a much, I mean, but I also thought it was Poncho Fiesta for you. It's not in Karma.
Like, gosh,
which
I'm
also
so glad you
is
reminded
not a
me that was
sentence.
a thing that occurred.
Hey, Elise Myers also thought the exact same thing. I'm not alone in this. But like I knew for a fact that was wrong. That doesn't make sense in a sentence. But like stratosphere is
The
a more interesting word.
stratosphere
I
comes
will give you
creeping
that.
in? Yeah. Fascinating. All right, another Marissa question. Is Stay, Stay, Stay the one that you like, or is it the one that JJ likes? Or did I completely make up somebody having strong feelings about that song?
I don't have strong feelings about Stay, Stay, Stay. I would say my feelings about Stay, Stay, Stay are leaning negative. So,
Oh, okay. Pray
so
tell.
not me.
I'm on the same page. It's bottom of my list for this album.
It's like, what's it doing there? Sorry.
And I think people that saw it
Fair,
live
me
have a
too.
different people that saw it live have a much different relationship with it. I guess it bopped during the Red Tour, which, to just briefly speak on the Red Tour, what?
That looks
This-
like an Ed Sheeran stage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that's my impulse, but
This is the era where her and Ed Sheeran
this
began their beautiful friendship.
yeah, it is.
I will
Okay.
say that H.T. Hayes does a bit where he reenacts Stay, Stay, Stay as if she's holding somebody hostage while she sings the song. And now I cannot unsee it. Like every time I hear it now, I think about like her holding somebody at like pew pew point while she sings it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that actually might
incredible.
make me like it more. With
Yeah,
the like
plus
cheerful
one.
delivery of it while like
Stay. Yeah.
good. That's good.
You know what would make me love a song more? Is my next question, is there a punk ghost pop cover of Holy Ground? And if not, who can we bully into making one? Because when I first listened, I could not for the life of me find one. And I think that would fucking slap, and I need it in my life.
There's lots.
Really?
Love Holy
Thank
Ground.
God.
See, I thought it went the other way because I remember the
Sorry.
Civil Wars doing a cover of Holy Ground.
They did.
Mm.
There is a cover band that did a punk cover of Holy Ground, which I'm going to put in the comments. And then I think you're right, Civil Wars.
Oh, I can't copy that. Or if I try to click on that, it'll pop up on screen.
Oh yeah.
I'm not finding it right now, but it's not to say it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. All my audio is coming out of one place. A crime. Yeah, this is really the era where if you haven't seen her do the We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together rock cover, Back Together rock version, it really slaps so hard. And she did it on
It
tour.
really does. Yep.
Stop. I'm begging my tabs to stop playing the music. Oh my god, stop. Okay, and then that's the link to the rock version. Yeah, we need a whole punk album from Taylor is what we learned from Red. Next.
Okay, this one's about the naming convention. What's up with Ronan? Because I don't think it was on the original, but it's not a vault track. That was confusion.
Ronan is a very unique song that was never meant to be on an album. And then when Taylor decided to do the re-recording, she put it on the Red album so that it would live in a version she owned. And this was in Taylor's always been chronically online. This is a known fact of her, but in the Red era, we had message forums. Like there was a message forum fan community that existed. And Taylor was very into blogging in this era. Like she was all in like Reddit style, like fan forums and blogs. And she like started following this blog written by this mother whose child Ronan had cancer, and it was documenting that whole journey. And then Ronan passed, and Taylor was so moved by following this blog forever that she wrote Ronan and released it. And there was a whole charity thing around it, and it raised money, and she performed it for various charity things. And she performed it on stage at the 1989 World Tour. And to this day, she'll like bring the mom to shows, and they have a relationship. And she's very much on like Taylor Swift fan Twitter, TikTok, Tumblr, like all of it. And the reason why it's on this album is because she released it between Red and 1989. And oh man, I'm losing my voice here. So she put it on the Red re-recording because she wanted to own it. And she wrote to the mother to say, like, I want to re-record Ronan and put it on Red, and had a whole dialogue with her about it before she did it.
Cool. So Incredible. It was like in between and just it went on the first one kind of deal.
I don't think she ever would have put it on 1989.
You're so correct. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. She put a lot of things on this album. So like Ronan is very unique, but in a similar theme of putting things on Red that she wanted to own. There's this theme of how Red, like the country and pop conflict of Red. And in the re-recording, she put out 4 songs specifically that really stand out. Message in a Bottle. Hold on. I'm losing. They're all in my rankings. The Very First Night, which are like the farthest extent of pop that she explored in this era. And then you have Better Man and Babe, which are the furthest extent of country that she explored in this era. And it's like she chopped all of the music she made on both ends and released everything that was in the middle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then only in the re-recording did she bring everything back into it. By this point, it didn't matter if it was pop or country.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Gotcha. But that's my questions for the most part.
Okay. Shall we talk about why this album is a mess? Let's dig more into that with the starting point of pop, country, and everything. Who else has thoughts on this album and the wide range that's explored?
Well, I've been in the trenches of this album. As I mentioned last week, I didn't revisit the albums in its entirety for last week's show. But this show, I did revisit the entirety of Red. So I've been in the trenches. It's been like all I've listened to all day. And that's certainly an experience. But I did that because it was like one of my bottom 2 albums on my first listen. I did not particularly enjoy it. I thought it was all kind of sonically one note, but kind of a mess of it with all of the different themes, and I wanted to give it its due diligence and really interrogate why I didn't like it. So I've been in the trenches of Red today, and I made a joke before we started that it's the trauma response album, and the more I think about that statement, the more it's not a joke, and like that's just the answer, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see this like kind of documentation of her working through something musically and like going on this healing journey through it, and then also seeing her revisit it ages later from a much more abstracted perspective, right? And I think where I've come to is that like it's a lot emotionally and doesn't make me feel great all the time. And that's most of my like negative reactions to it. And also there's a couple of things that I think it was when I was going through the vault tracks. Let me check my notes on that. Nothing New was the one that really clicked in my head because my like initial note on that was it felt like Barbie girlhood. And the way people are engaging with the Barbie movie and Barbie as a property now with about it being about like this connection with girlhood that like I will never have, and it's something like it was projected onto me but that I didn't ever experience And I think a lot of the feelings I have towards Red is it's like about these like themes and concepts that might have been projected onto me, but not ones that I experienced myself. So I can't connect to the messaging, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I would love to know your thoughts on all of that.
I also re-listened. I re-listened to all of Red Taylor's version today. Because as previously stated, I was more invested in the Les Mis 25th anniversary live in concert in 2012 than I was Red. I never listened to the album all the way through. I had all the singles. I've always been a Taylor single girl. Let me just say, I've always owned the singles, but I was not deep in.
I have one thought about that is while I was listening to the first part I was like, I'm not particularly a singles person, and it feels like the most of the best songs on the album were the singles. And I think that might also be a disconnect. Sorry, please continue your thought.
Yeah, well, so I just didn't really have a relationship with Red as an album or really like the Red era. I was very like peripherally attached to it, like through friends, through the like pop culture cycle of the time rather than like a personal connection to the music. So I wanted to like take time to like listen all the way through Red Taylor's version and like pay attention to it rather than like I don't know. And like I will say there were some positive surprises. But it just doesn't get me. And I think part of that is missing the nostalgic factor, but also it's really long and disjointed in a lot of ways. And I think like again, it's the like reflective thing of like thinking about Speak Now versus Speak Now Taylor's version, like thinking about Red Taylor's version with the context of when Red was originally released. Like I understand why it's the way it is. And I understand why, like, thematically, lyrically, musically, it feels the way that it does. And I think that allows me to appreciate it a little bit more. But, like, it doesn't get me in the way that, like, I want it to. And yet, some of my favorite Taylor songs are on it. Like, I think the problem is that there are just too many songs. And I wish it was more cohesive. I like it to feel like a book, like Speak Now. I want it to feel like a book.
I think where I came away from it was I do revisiting it have much more respect for it as an album and the work and the context. And I'm just landing in the camp of it's not for me, but I respect it. And I think like that's a good place to be with it. Like I understand it. I get why people have strong feelings about it. And I don't have to love it to like respect that position.
Yeah, 100%. Now let the OGs speak.
Alexis, do you want to share?
I mean, I guess I resonate with Sly with your thoughts on it because I think I like it because I had the exact opposite experience. If that makes sense, right? And something Liz and I have talked about in the past is when the Miss Americana documentary came out and the commentary that happens now about the Miss Americana documentary to me misses this understanding of Taylor as being somebody who grew up in the South at a time that's just far enough removed from the experience of people listening to her work and experiencing Taylor now that they can't really understand it because they didn't have that experience, right? And to me, Red is an incredibly disjointed album, but being 18 through 22 in the South was an incredibly disjointing experience at that time, right? Because it was right on this cusp of like, women here should have their own ideas and women should date the Kennedys. And like it, to me, like the aesthetic of this album of Taylor being both a ringmaster and a woman who wears high-waisted shorts with red lipstick, like culminates in that experience where it's like, you should like have your own ideas and like write your own songs and do your own things, but like you should look like 1950s in the South as you do it. Like, and it was this pool for women to like be their own person, but find some justifiable way to hold on to these morals that were being forced upon them. And the way that that experience culminated for me, and I would argue that it culminated for Taylor, was let's like idealize the 50s and 60s as our excuse for not having worked through how the values that we were given relate to the feminism that we want to have, right? And I think that disjointing experience comes across in this album, and that I like the album because that was my experience. And I am not in a place where I can remove myself enough from that experience personally to like listen to the album and be like, it doesn't really sonically make sense. That just kind of weighs less for me a little bit. Yeah, Liz.
I just, before we lose this moment, I want to bring us to the song Starlight, because to me, Starlight is the song that is the scapegoat of using a point in time to like, it's like everything you said is why she made this song. And there's the line, I met Bobby on the boardwalk, summer of 45. It's Kennedy's. It's 40s, 50s era. It's romanticizing the past. We were 17 and crazy, running wild. Can't remember what song he was playing when we walked in the night we snuck into a yacht club party pretending to be a duchess and a prince.
That's so funny because spoiler
I love
alert,
Starlight.
that is my number one.
No, okay. It's a great song. Go ahead.
I just, my last thought is, to me, one of the things that stands out between like Red Taylor's version is the difference in All Too Well, because in the original, she's not quite ready to be mean because she was told she wasn't supposed to be. Like, it's very clear that like she has negative emotions about this and that she blames him, but like good girls in the South, they don't say that out loud, right? So you can like see where she like almost says it, but she won't. And when she re-records the album, I remember like listening to it live and being so struck by it. She is very much ready to be like, no, this is your problem, right? Like the bit about like, I was never funny, but the punchline goes, I'll grow older, but your lovers will stay my age. Not something that I would argue original Red era Taylor would have ever felt comfortable saying live.
And I want to tie what you've just said into I Knew You Were Trouble, because to me, that song, which the production is such anger, that is an angry song, but the words are, I knew you were trouble when you walked in, so shame on me. Like, you did all these things and I'm lying on the ground. Oh, like, so it's a song where it's like she's telling us like, I'm not allowed to be mad at you. It's a shame on me that I had all the facts and made my choices. And in the re-recording, in the All Too Well 10-minute version, it's the opposite, where she says, no, fuck you. You shouldn't have treated me that way. And that's not a conclusion that she could ever come to on the Red album. So it's just what you're saying is like it's not just that is what the essence of the album is. Like, it's in all of the words of the songs. Like, she tells us the story verbatim in this music. And I feel like she does that with Speak Now. But in this album, she's like, no, like, I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening to me. Like, in this kind of coded way that over time, you're going to see what the true implication was. And then you get 1989, which is the ultimate example of that, and the queer coding of 1989. And that I can't tell you everything right now, but I'm going to put it verbatim in a song. And eventually we'll get to a place where you're going to figure it out. Taylor Swift. I love her. Sorry. I get carried away sometimes. Alexis, you're so smart. I really, part of my struggle with Red is that all of this depiction of the Kennedys and the 50s and the Southern context that is so evident and clear, whoosh, I have no substance, like I have no connection to, especially when she was dating the Kennedy. Everyone was like, oh, of course she is. I was like, what does that mean? Like I know about Jackie, I know about Mary, like I know the lore of the Kennedys, but I have no connection to it. So I really, I find it interesting to hear, like, as someone that was embedded in the context, how it resonated at the time and how maybe it resonates now. Because if you had the polar opposite opinion or experience of Sly, I had the opposite opinion of you, where there was so much that came out of that era that I was like I hated the Keds campaign then. I really did. I was like, what is she doing? She's in her 20s and she's dressing like this. Like, it was giving Mormon to me. It was giving like
completely worked on me. I wanted those shoes, so I wanted to be that girl.
Yeah.
I wanted to be her.
This album came out and I was driving a pickup truck, but I had given up pants. I was refusing to wear pants. So I like only wore sundresses and Keds, but like I was driving a pickup truck to like karate practice. Like that was when this came out. And that was the common experience of women I knew in my town at this time.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, the styling of this era was everything. I just did not understand it. I loved the Keds. I would see what was happening and just not, like, there was no connection to it for me. Like we all, like, I had so many pairs of Oxford shoes. Like, she wore so many Oxford shoes in this era. I had a full glitter Oxford shoes that I wore. Like, it was like the high-waisted shorts with the white top. Like, that was the look. Like, we were into it, but it was with the question of not understanding any of the why. Like, just not, because that wasn't what I was seeing in my media.
You're missing the cultural context to fully understand what the motivations were behind all of these choices.
In this moment, Canadian culture, and this is 2012. This is like the peak. I shouldn't even say the peak. It's a little bit post-peak live Much Music, but like still within like that final hurrah of live Much Music content, which I like lived and breathed. Like, that was my lifeblood. And it was still so heavily in a lane of punk, like Canadian punk. And still, like, we didn't lose Avril Lavigne's impact on Canadian pop culture until after 2015. Like, it took forever.
As you should.
And we also have so much in from the British pop culture moment with like One Direction, and like Cher Lloyd did well here and Little Mix did well here. And we had that kind of like new wave British pop punk coming in and like infiltrating our vibes and our looks. Yeah. And also, this was peak One Direction for me. 2012, I was so in the trenches with One Direction that like Red was more of a side story that was happening. And I was way more into like the Take Me Home of it all than Red. Yeah.
It's also just like fascinating to think about how all of these things were being held at the same time, of like the coming out of Fearless Speak Now era Taylor branding into the Red, with the like cultural impact of like twee, pixie pants, new girl, like cardigans and like pedal pushers and Keds, and like that is peak girl culture, while also like holding hipsters and like fake glasses and fedoras at the same time. And the way you can see like all of that converging into the mess that is Red. And like, I feel like when I think about like the Red era and like Taylor at the start of the 2010s, like, what does that look like? and I see like 4 different versions. But the crazy thing is, like, that was all happening at the exact same time. Like, she was all of those things at the same time, which is just wild. It's just the 22 music video happening at the same time as those Keds ads is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the We Are Never Getting Back Together music video. Let's talk about that music video for a second. Peak Taylor.
Yeah, I I experienced that for the first time this week. And hold on, I have notes. Somebody else talk real quick.
This song specifically is burned into my memory for 2 reasons. One, Taylor did a live on Facebook that was like in 1 pixel quality, and it was one of the first lives to ever happen on Facebook, and she played this song for the first time and announced the Red album, and I was watching and my friends were watching, and it was like a whole, like, that was wild that Taylor Swift was doing a live on Facebook to talk about the album in 1 pixel quality. Like, and we heard the song and it was a little bit like not clear audio quality, and it was amazing. And then I remember the music video came out, and then Much Music All Day was like, we're doing the music video premiere on New Music Live tonight, and they baited it the whole episode and then played it with the intro credits, and they didn't play the whole thing. And I was on Twitter like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I was like so angry that they did it like that. Like, it was not having it. But yeah, that was a big day.
So I was shocked that I Knew You Were Trouble music video had a whole ass monologue intro. And I realized afterwards it was because I think I've only seen the music video as the GOAT remix, which obviously cut out the like intro and outro, like spoken pieces. So that was a fascinating discovery for me in the year of our Lord 2023.
Forever iconic, the GOAT remix for sure. What else about this era stands out to us? There's so much we can talk about here. Alexis and Marissa, what stands out for each of you about the Red era? I didn't mean to click on this, but for me, it's the Coke stuff. The Diet Coke promo, which was extreme. And there were so many Canadians that drove across the border to go to Subway and get this cup and to get the Taylor Swift Diet Coke bottles and bring them home. Like, people still have them with the Coke in them. Like, it was a big, big moment. And you have the fridges, which I cannot leave out of the discourse. The Diet Coke fridges, which, did I upload it? Oh no, did I not upload it? I don't see it. But there were Diet Coke Taylor Swift fridges, and they're one of the most sought after pieces of Taylor Swift merchandise to this day. Taylor Swift Diet Coke.
The Xbox One X fridge, which for people who aren't in games media spaces, when it came out, everybody said it looked like a fridge, so that they then made like a mini fridge in the design of the Xbox itself.
Yeah, I wish this was that cool. It's really not. It's hold on here. It's got a handle. It had like a promo thing on the top of it, and it was just filled with Diet Coke. And a lot of, I don't know what stores specifically had them, but yeah, they sell for hundreds of dollars now. And sometimes people find them in warehouses in the States. Like, I've seen people do, like, I paid $300 for this random warehouse, and they open it up and it's got like a Taylor Swift fridge inside, and then they make 4 times the amount on the just selling the fridge than they do on the what they paid for the warehouse. Like, it's a big ticket item.
Love that.
What stands out for y'all?
I can't believe we didn't touch it yet. We have to talk about the Lorax.
The Lorax.
Because no, I didn't listen to Red in full, but I did see the Lorax in theaters.
I did not see the Lorax in theaters, but I did, however, watch it on a houseboat.
I have never heard of the
fascinating viewing
Lorax, but I do own that
situation.
dress.
What?
I love that dress. I love that dress.
I love that you have this dress, and you need to watch the Lorax. The Lorax stays being a phenomenal.
Let 'em
movie.
die, let 'em die, let 'em
Let 'em
shrivel
shrivel
up and die.
The Lorax speaks for the trees. Environmentalism.
I mean, I know the story of the Lorax. I just have not seen the film
The
adaptation of the
Lorax.
Lorax.
Wow.
Alexis, I want you to think about a movie with Taylor Swift and Zac Efron and imagine a world in which I did not see it in theaters. That world does not exist.
No, it doesn't.
Does everyone remember the Ellen interview?
Yes.
I did not, but I did experience it for the first time this week.
Every single time I go on this
This
show, it's
show.
really weird, really
Weird.
weird. All because of Ellen. And who knew that would age?
I was not saying.
Mhm.
That was many people's first comfort video from YouTube. Can you believe that?
Oh God,
That
I'm
sure is
95 years
something.
old.
Yeah. No, Alexis, your homework is to watch the Lorax. It is quite. I'm probably gonna watch it this weekend now that we've talked about it. I think it's.
I'm
great.
changing the date night plans. We're putting on the Lorax.
I was about to say we've discussed this before. The only way you won't get me to jump my hyperfixation, which is currently a struck property that Marissa and I bonded over, and a struck property that is a medical drama that I shouldn't be watching. The only way that you are going to get me to jump that boat is if Sly is like, we're watching the Lorax.
All right, Sly, it's all on you. It's all on you.
I will say, and I'm hoping, Liz, that you have the information on this. In my head, the thing that stuck with me, other than the Kennedys thing, because one of us on this show was addicted to that. And like the miniseries that was a documentary that wasn't a documentary, I think also came out around that time with Kitty Holmes. Anyway, doesn't matter. I remember feeling like this era ended when she did her first Victoria's Secret fashion show. But my dates on that could be totally off. But in my mind, I remember seeing that and being like, oh, we're moving on to something else. Like we are out of this, like, I am still like a Southern good girl era. Like you kind of kick that to the curb at the end of your first Victoria's Secret fashion show.
No, you're actually
toss that link in the.
You're completely spot on because that was 2013.
Okay.
End of 2013 that happened. And 1989 was October of 2014. So it really was the transition point, and it was probably strategically so, you know. And that's kind of when she was introducing this like model persona that she adopted through 1989, where she was as sexy and desirable and in line with Carly and Kendall and Cara and all of these incredible, outrageously beautiful models and people. So yes, absolutely correct. Because the next thing we got from her, everything was aligned to 1989, even though she was singing some Red songs during that era, and she was singing with Fall Out Boy during that era. Oh
the
no!
second fashion show was Fall Out Boy, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm back. Sorry. My computer froze and went black, and now I'm back. So I don't know. Did you guys get that?
No, you're good.
Okay, sorry. Alexis, what were you saying? I could not hear you.
I said I think the second Victoria's Secret show fashion show is Fall Out Boy, because the list talk I could give on the differences between those two performances by Taylor, it's a long one, folks.
So much so that I think we should table it for next week because
we have to table it. You can't. Yeah, you can't. It can't be given without 1989.
Yeah, it is. I can't even engage with that, or else we will never end tonight's show. So we're just gonna straight up park that.
I will say the Story of Us music video for me was incredibly nostalgic, and I've seen
Aw.
that many a times, and it was something that I had forgotten about, and when I revisited it, I was like, "Oh, I remember this deeply."
I really love that music video.
We can't depart this era without talking about All Too Well, the 10-minute version, and visiting the re-release of Red.
Ooh.
And the music video, like we all know, we've done specials on this. We reacted to this live together on screen. Like we've unpacked this a lot as a team over time. I think that there's like 3 reference points that really tell the story of Speak Now TV, Red Taylor's version, and it does link back to the Grammy performances. So we talked about this one. Right. And this is Broadway. This is big budget. It's drama. It's owning your shit. And it was not as strong of a vocal performance, but she made up for it in other ways. And then she comes to her next Grammys with Red, and she does All Too Well, the 6-minute version. And she does this performance at the piano, which is all vocal. You don't see her band. The camera is right up against her face. And it's like one of her most incredible like vocal moments from her early eras. And then you come to Red Taylor's version, and she brings it to SNL, and she does 1 performance on SNL that night, not 2 like you usually get. And she spends it doing the entire 10-minute version of All Too Well. And I have a photo. Yeah, here it is. Which was yet again another show-stopping, headline-dominating moment for her, where this is without fashion. It's just a black outfit. It's the hair that she's always worn, and it's just vocal and the music video and snow and leaves, and everyone eats it up, and she's, deemed a genius and whatnot. And then she puts out the short film alongside of this, and it does win a Grammy, and it's like this huge moment. And I think that really like shows like the Grammys with these albums is such like a story in itself. Not even to mention that she didn't win Album of the Year for Red, and how that was a huge thing for her, and like all of these like winnings and moments and camera cuts. Yeah, but it's just interesting to think about like this is one of the only albums and one of the only times in Taylor's life where the live performances mattered so much. And they mattered at their most at the Grammys and at the Victoria's Secret fashion show and at SNL, like these like huge stages. It doesn't get bigger than any of those unless you're doing Super Bowl. And she contractually couldn't do Super Bowl. So she like made these moments. Like if you only know one thing from her career, you're going to know that this is what it is. And I'm going to do it at the Grammys in the most judgmental room of music. It's incredible. It's ballsy as shit.
You know what else is ballsy? These rankings of this album.
Give it to us, Sly. What's your ranking for Red?
Okay, I forgot to put this disclaimer on Speak Now, but yet again, like I mentioned in the previous episode, this is on enjoyability. So I think some songs are better than these. I would rank them higher than these. But if I've heard them too many times in my life, I don't want to put them on a playlist. So they haven't made these rankings. So that's the disclaimer. I'm going to start from the bottom again. Number 6, I have, once again, an acoustic version, State of Grace. I love an acoustic. I eat that shit up. Number 5, I have Everything Has Changed. Number 4, Treacherous. Number 3, The Last Time. Number 2, Holy Ground. And number 1, Starlight, which is a vibe.
What?
It also embodies a comment on one of the vault tracks that I won't be mentioning, which is Run, where I said, am I crazy or this kind of toxic? Song's a vibe, though. I think that has the same energy here.
All right, Alexis. Your ranking.
This one was really hard for me. But All Too Well was number 1 for me. I put The Moment I Knew second, and then Sad, Beautiful, and Tragic third. But I really struggled. Treacherous and I think it's Come Back, Be Here. I always get it in the wrong order. Those were 2 that like I had, and then I like swapped out, and then I put back, and I swapped out. So those 2 would be up there for me as well.
I did have a note that if I had heard Come Back Be Here earlier in the album, it probably would have been much, much higher on my rankings. Revisiting it, I was like, wow, that's an excellent song. But it just got lost in the sauce my first listen.
That's fair.
Speaking of Come Back Be Here, it's my number 1. My number 2 is Holy Ground, and my number 3 is The Moment I Knew. I refuse to put All Too Well because I think there is a definitive version of All Too Well, and it is not the original release.
I agree with that. And I would also say that I am of the opinion that All Too Well cannot be ranked because it's like critically acclaimed.
It transcends the rankings.
It transcends rankings. Like
it's the best song she's ever written.
It's the best song she's ever written.
Like Rolling Stone said that. I'm okay with agreeing with that.
It's also been dubbed one of the best songs of all time. So I'm like, okay, who am I to say that Eyes Open is better than it? I don't think Eyes Open is better than it. But like, I can't rank it. It's like God tier. It's like it's Hall of Fame. It's a Hall of Fame. So my ranking, and I've been struggling. I've been struggling with this ranking because if you know one thing about Liz, it's that when I had a CD player in my car, it was red. Like red, and me have driven to the ends of Nova Scotia and back together. So it's brutal to rank this. So at number 3, I put Come Back, Be Here. And I just added the last time because I forgot that was my number 1 for like most of time. It is also the reason I found Gary Lightbody's project Tired Pony, which is the saddest folk shit you could ever dream of. And number 2, I put Treacherous. And number 1, I put The Moment I Knew. And we got it in Chicago, baby. We got it in Chicago. So that was a win. Let's do some vault tracks. I'll start because I just want to get out of the way that I literally couldn't do this. So I would like to apologize publicly and then let you guys rank it. Because what I did do was instead of ranking the songs, I took the sub eras of Red and I ranked them. So in number 3, I put the pop cuts, which are Message in a Bottle in the very first night. In number 2, I put the country cuts, Better Man and Babe. And in number 1, I put the Hunger Games re-records, Safe and Sound and Eyes Open. Because I literally could not pick. And then I actually put number 1 was the All Too Well 10-minute version, but that's God tiers we've already determined. So for those of you that can make decisions, let's start with Sly. What did you
I also broke the rules.
Okay.
So number 3, we're going to start with this. I haven't decided yet if I love or hate this song. And that is Forever Winter. It was really funky. It's kind of, I don't know. I need to process. So if I love it, it's number 3. If I hate it, I Bet You Think About Me would take that spot. So that's my disclaimer. Number 2, I have Babe, which I discovered is our second train reference of the evening. So that was really exciting. I saw that name pop up at the bottom and I was like, wait, what? So yeah, and then number 1, I super duper cheated because this is All Too Well 10-minute version, Taylor's version from the Vault, Sad Girl Autumn version recorded at Long Pond Studios.
That is your top ranking. That's such a Sly cut.
That's the definitive version for me. I gotta say.
And
underappreciated.
In moments like this, you get a rare glimpse into the Venn diagram where Marissa and Sly meet. We have found it.
Did you say rare glimpse? It is a terrifying glimpse for me.
There's like 3 things in this list now.
All Too Well at Long Pond is the closest I will ever get to Evermore Long Pond sessions, and I need to hold on to it.
Felt.
Valid. Our lost sister Evermore Long Pond studio session. All right, Alexis, what are your vault track rankings?
My first one is the All Too Well 10-minute version, Taylor's version, because I didn't know we were God-tiering songs out of our rankings. Nobody passed those rules along to Alexis, and she was agonizing over this. And 2 is Nothing New. And then 3 is I Bet You Think About Me.
Would you like to add one more song now that we have determined that All Too Well is God tier? Are you
on the spot?
Valid, very valid. And then Marissa, have we heard from you? I don't think we have, other than you're chanting that Sly is correct.
No, you have not yet heard from me. This actually works out great that we're God tiering All Too Well 10-minute because it was my number 1, but I had a tie at number 3. So this is fantastic. Now my number 1 is Nothing New, which I forgot was a vault track. That just seems like a indelible song that has always existed, much like Mr. Perfectly Fine. Then I guess number 2 would be I Bet You Think About Me, and then number 3 would be Better Man.
All good picks all around. Wow. And that takes us to the end of what could have been a 10-hour episode on Speak Now and Red. We really dug in and scratched the surface here. The last word goes to Sly as usual. What did you learn about these eras? What are you taking away from this time?
Oh man, I'm taking so much away. Just like further getting to appreciate Speak Now, which I adored on first edition, and just kind of fully formulating my thoughts on Red. I do remember when I first listened to Red, I did talk to a friend of the show, Bucky, who also loves Forever Winter, because they really love Red Taylor's version, and I was just like, why? Like, please tell me so I can like figure out like what about it is resonating with people. And we had a great conversation about that, and getting to go through this conversation and see these references and touch points in the cultural context, I have so much more appreciation for it. I don't feel like it's something I can be like a miss from Taylor or anything, and so just being able to revisit it with an open mind and like fully take it in and really understand why I feel the way I do about it has been such a great experience. And I'm so glad we did the show. Next show, we're also doing yet another edition of an album I loved and an album I hated on first edition. So we'll see how I feel about those next week, and hopefully it'll be an improvement as well. And Liz is making a face. I'm so sorry, Liz.
I have 7 days to collect myself and revisit this with you. I didn't know that hated was in our team's vernacular when it came to certain albums. So we have a lot to unpack together. But part of the fun of 1989 and Reputation is the context of the moment. And I've actually seen a trend in new to Taylor Swift fans who have been ranking albums who have been ranking Reputation at the bottom of, or towards the bottom of their rankings, which is really interesting to me.
I need to clarify for the record that Reputation is like the top of my list and 1989 is number 10.
I see. Okay. I thought you were talking Reputation.
No. That's still wrong.
Okay. That's why I was like, you hate Reputation? We're about to have a really interesting off-air conversation right now.
Liz was like, I didn't know you hated my existence.
Very much
you saw me re-enter my Reputation era live. Like it was happening.
I did. And I was like, waiting. I was like, I don't know if I should tell you that that's not what is happening, or if it will just organically come up that you were thinking of the wrong album. It was like a train wreck. I couldn't stop, so I was just enjoying it while it happened.
glad we hashed this
man.
out live. This is
I'm
good.
so glad we clarified.
But I will say that the next two albums are incredibly divisive. And if you're a new Taylor Swift fan, I have seen a ton of people change their opinions on both albums when they learn the context of the moments they were created in. Like, if any album is going to be changed in your rankings, in your opinions, based on historical context, it's going to be 1989 and Reputation. They are so deeply embedded in the culture of the moment in a way that other albums transcend time. So I'm excited to dig into them and talk about all of the bits and pieces that make up two very complex trauma-based albums that get us really into our era's era. But until next Friday, where can people find us and what are we talking about? Who would like to start? Sly, would you like to start?
I made a joke last week that you can find me in Seattle literally every week of this month. And that's no longer a joke. That's just a fact. So I will be in Seattle 2 times more. It's fine. You can find me on Threads at SlyCloneMC. That's the only social media I've been posting to regularly. So come hang out. It's a good time. And you can always find me over at Point in Progress. We just released yesterday was the edited version of our first edition of a Pip Dev Talk with Graham Reed, aka Graham of Legend, about Super Space Club. So go check that out. If you want the full 1-hour conversation, it did drop today as well. Please go check that out. Even if you're not a big games person, it's a really great conversation about the making of projects and culture and all that good stuff. So go check that out on the Point in Progress channel. You're so muted.
No, I know. I was trying to unmute and then it moved me to another screen and I was like, oh, none of that's good. Marissa, since you're going to be gone for the next 3 weeks, provide us with 3 weeks of what is happening with Miss Abobissa.
Okay, I'll try. You can follow me everywhere at Miss Abobissa, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, all the places. I'm going to be going to the Jonas Brothers next week. I'm going to be traveling a lot. I'm going to be hanging out with Liz and maybe some other friends and going to TIFF. There's going to be all kinds of me trying to be a fashion girly and pack cute outfits in one suitcase. Who knows if she'll do it. You can just expect a rich tapestry of many different items. It'll be a fun ride.
In your traveling era, in your busy era, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Alexis, where can people find you?
Theoretically, you can find me at Just Alexis Blake anywhere on the internet. And here's the thing. This week, I was like, I'm going to come back to the apps. I'm going to talk about grad school and everyone can follow my life. Did that happen at all? No. So theoretically, next week, I'm going, as I go back to grad school, I'm going to welcome you along the journey with me. Now, will that happen? Who's to say? But that's kind of the general plan.
Who can say? You'll have to tune in to find out.
You have to follow to see what happens. I'm excited. I can't wait. I also am putting in my requests now for fall fashion with Alexis because Alexis tears up fall fashion better than anyone I've ever met in my life. So I'm just really hoping we might enter our academia fall outfit era with Alexis.
Our academia fall outfit era has suffered from the curveball of a terrible blue and orange color palette. So once we eventually level that out, I will reintroduce everybody to fall Alexis. For right now, she is going through something. And it's not the best.
Oh, it took me too long to put that together.
I too understand where the orange and the blue is coming from now that I have put it together in my head. And it definitely has nothing to do with the fact that I'm working on your immigration status to Alberta.
Nope. Completely unrelated.
Completely unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the meantime, you can find me at producer Liz everywhere on the internet. And I'm probably still trying to get Taylor Swift tickets for Toronto. I'm probably still, you know what? I'm actually not traveling next week.
Who is she?
Shocker.
Who knows what I'll get up to
Wow.
in the comfort of my own home? Probably talk. I knew there was something. My pre-TIFF series starts next week, talking about non-struck work happening, what you have to look forward to, how to make the most of the festival, ticketing, all that kind of stuff. It's all going down next week, and there's a lot of key dates. So if you're wanting to come to the festival, there's things you got to know, and you got to know about them quickly. So I got to get my ass in gear and start posting about that so everyone knows what to do. And in the meantime, we'll see you next Friday. Well, not Marissa, but the rest of us will see you next Friday. And we'll miss you, Marissa, for the next few weeks. And we'll see you next week for Becoming a Swiftie Part 3. Bye, everyone.
Bye.